Hello everyone. In this lecture, we are going to learn one more core building block of an Android operating system. It is called as the fragments, right? So in Android, fragments are the modular section of an activity design, and these fragments are used to represent a behavior of the user interface in an activity. Modular section in the sense, one activity may be divided into the number of sections or modules, and all these sections and modules comprises, or it all sections and modules forms one complete activity. So for that purpose fragments are used. An activity can display one or more fragments of the screen at the same time depending upon the requirement of our application. Then a fragment has its own life cycle. It means it has some certain callback methods that accepts its own event inputs. As that of the activity also have its certain life cycle. Similarly, fragment has its own life cycle. Generally, fragment must be included in an activity so that the fragment life cycle will always be affected by the host activity life cycle. Okay, here host activity means the activity into which fragments are created or fragments are attached to. Okay, in more detail we can say activity is a one single screen of the mobile application, and within the single screen, if we have divided that screen into two parts, it means we have inserted two fragments into the one activity. Then that fragments should be fragment life cycle should be affected by the host activity. It means in which they have been embedded, that activity's life cycle should be affected that particular fragments. Okay, in case if an host activity is paused, then all the fragments which are inserted or which belongs to that particular activity will also be stopped. And fragments can be inserted into an activity layout by using a fragment tag and by dividing the layout activity into a number of fragments, right? So fragment can be inserted into the layout file. It means suppose we have a main activity.java file and its related XML or layout file will be activity underscore main.xml file, and if we want to insert a fragment into this particular layout file, then we can achieve that by inserting or by using a fragment opening tag and fragment closing tag inside the activity underscore main.xml file, and we can insert a number of fragments depending upon our requirement. So here in this particular figure, this is screens of a tablet and it is shown as a landscape orientation, right? And this particular screen have one activity, that is activity A. This whole screen is called as the one activity of this tablet screen. Okay, and this activity contains two fragments. This is a fragment A, which is a list box or list view, and this is a fragment B, which is it may be text view or some other controls, right? So what happens here, depending upon the selection of the item from this list box or list view, contents of this list text view or contents of this control may be changed. Okay, in this case these are the two fragments which are embedded into the single activity. So this background gray colored rectangle represents an activity A, and these two controls, this is list view and this is some other control, represent the fragments. Similarly, if we have to implement such user interface on a mobile phone which have a small screen size as compared to the tablet phone, in that case we can implement our user interface like this one. So for that we have to implement two separate activities, activity A and activity B. Okay, so in this case activity A contains a fragment A whereas the activity B contains a fragment B, right. And whenever user selects one of the item from this list view from fragment A, then it will open the another activity, that is activity B, which contains the another fragment, and it will show the contents depending upon the selection which has been made by the user on to this particular list box from fragment A. Okay. So, in this case, this is a separate fragment which is embedded into the activity A, and this is separate fragment B which is embedded into the activity B. For example, we can say Gmail app. So, Gmail app is a very good example of the fragments activity. Suppose you are using a tablet phone. Since size of the screen of a tablet phone is bigger than as compared to the mobile phone, on tablet phone your Gmail application somewhat look like this one. Okay, this is single screen, and whatever this purple border is there, it is a activity A. It means this whole rectangle with purple border is called as activity A in this case, whereas orange color rectangle, it means this one is the fragment A, and blue color rectangle screen area is, which means this one is a fragment B. It means in this case activity A contains two fragments, fragment A here and fragment B is here. So, fragment A contains your various folders like sent folder, outbox folder, inbox folder, all emails, drafts, etc., etc. Whereas fragment B is dynamic fragment, we can say. It means depending upon selection from the fragment A, it means fragment A, the contents of fragment B will be changed. For example, if user click on the sent menu from the fragment A, then the fragment B will show all the list of all email messages which that particular user have been sent to other recipients. Whereas if user selects inbox option from the fragment A, then fragment B will select all the email messages which have been there in the inbox of that particular user's Gmail account. Okay. So, this is for a tablet screen. Similarly, if particular user is using a smartphone, then the same application will look like this one. Okay. So, here there are two separate activities, like the blue colored rectangle in this way, in this figure, it represents activity A, and this activity A is hosting a fragment A which has the green colored rectangle inside it. Okay. So, this is a fragment A which is embedded into the activity A, whereas this application has another activity called as the B. So, this rectangle is called as the activity B. This blue colored rectangle is the activity B, and this activity B hosts a fragment B which has this border as this somewhat this color. So, this is activity, this is fragment B which is hosted by fragment. So, activity B. Functionality is same depending upon selection on the fragment A, the contents of fragment B will be updated. Okay, I think you all are familiar with this particular second example, because on every Android phone there is Gmail app. Okay, and the user interface of Gmail app is very similar to this one, right. Then, as that of the activity, fragment have its own life cycle, as I said earlier, and this is a typical diagram that represents the number of callback methods that belongs to a particular fragment. Okay. So, whenever fragment is added to a particular activity, the onAttach function is called. Okay. It means an onAttach function accepts a parameter of type activity, and this function is called only once when it is attached to with the its host activity, right? And then onCreate function is called, or onCreate callback method is called, and this onCreate method is used to initialize the fragments content. It is same as that of the onCreate function of the activity. Okay, so suppose your fragment contains some four number of user controls, then the initialization part of this all four user controls may be done in the onCreate function of that particular fragment. Then second, the next callback method is called as the onCreateView. Okay, so this onCreateView function or method accepts three parameters. First one is the layout inflator, second is the view group, and third one is the bundle. And a task of this onCreateView function is to create and return the view hierarchy. View hierarchy in the sense this fragment maybe have some base class, say activity may have base class and view group may have base class like view. Okay, so it creates that hierarchy of the number of classes which are involved into the creation of that fragment, and it returns that view hierarchy to the Android application. And the next callback method is called the onActivityCreated, and this function is invoked after the completion of the onCreate method. Okay, so once the onCreate method of the fragment has been completed its execution, then this onActivityCreated method is called, which indicates that the fragment is now completely created and its initialization part has been done. Okay, then after onActivityCreated method, next callback method is called, that is called as the onStart method, and it is used to make a fragment visible to the user. But after completion of this onStart, still fragment will not be visible to the user. For that, onResume function is called, and it is this onResume function is used to make a fragment visible in an host activity. Okay, so once onResume function is called of that particular fragment, then fragment is active and it is visible to the user, right? And when fragment is visible to the user, then there are a number of possibilities. For example, user can navigate backward, or fragment will be removed or replaced, or fragment will be sent to the background, or it will be removed and replaced. Okay, so whenever user switches from a fragment to the another fragment, or whenever fragment has been removed, or whenever fragment has been sent to the background, then what happens, the onPause function is called. Okay, so it is on this onPause function is called when a fragment is no longer visible to the user, and it indicates that the user is leaving that particular fragment. Okay, and after onPause, then next function or method is called, that is the onStop method, and this method is called to stop a fragment when fragment is sent to the background or it is removed by the user. After onStop method, next function is called, that is called as the onDestroyView. Okay, and task of this onDestroyView method is the whatever view hierarchy was created by the onCreateView method in previous case, that all hierarchy associated with that particular fragment will be removed by this particular onDestroyView method, and it will return to the layout from the callback stack. It means once this particular fragment particular function or method has been executed, then it will return to the onCreateView function of the which is called previously, right? So after the execution of this method, execution control goes towards this onCreateView method, so that again the view hierarchy will be created and then fragments will be added to the host activity, right? So after onDestroyView, then onDestroy method is called, and it is called to perform the final cleanup of fragments state. Okay, If some resources have been held by the that particular fragment, then all resources will be released and it will clean up the all resources which can be held by that particular fragment. And after on destroy function, next function that is called is on detach. Okay, so it is called immediately after the fragment is deassociated from the activity. In other words, we can say whenever this function is called, then whatever fragment was attached to that particular host activity, that fragment will be detached from the its host activity. And once this function or method is called, then fragment is completely destroyed. Then in Android there are some certain classes which are used for implementation of the fragments, and these classes are one is the fragment. It means android.app.fragment, and this is the base class for all fragment definitions. It means if we want to implement or create our own fragment, then that class should be inherited from this fragment inbuilt class. Then next class is that is called as fragment manager, and this class is used for interacting with the fragment object inside the activity. Okay, and last class is called as the fragment transaction, and this class is used for performing the atomic set of fragments operation. Okay, some operations will be there, and for performing that atomic operations, then this fragment transaction class has been used, right? Then a fragment class have one important callback method, that is called as the on create view. So we will see in detail what is this function and what are what parameters it accepts and what it does actually, right? So as shown in this particular snapshot code, here there is one public class whose name is the sample fragment. It is user defined class, and this class has been inherited from the built-in class called as the fragment. Okay, and it has been overridden one callback method that is called as the on create view, right? So this on create view has three parameters. First one is the layout inflator, second one is the view group, and third one is the bundle. So we will see one by one what is this parameter. First parameter, that is called as the layout inflator, and this is the component which create the view instance based on the XML definitions or XML layout definitions for that particular fragment. Okay, and this it means this particular layout inflator creates a view instance by calling a method called as the inflate. If you see here in the body of this onCreate function, see here we have created object of the view root view, and whatever value will be written by this particular statement, it will be stored into the view object, right? It means, and this inflator is the object of this layout inflator class, which we will receive from this onCreate view method, right? So on this layout inflator class, we are calling the inflate method, and to the inflate method again there are three parameters. So first parameter is the ID of layout XML file. In this case it is r.layout.fragment_sample. So whatever layout definition we have defined for that particular sample fragment, in this case name of the fragment is fragment_sample. It will be taken from that layout file and it will be assigned to this particular fragment. Then second parameter of this inflate function, it is called as the view group, and this view group is the group or view into which fragments view is to be inserted. And generally this view group represent the activity or host activity into which fragment has to be embedded. And third parameter, that is a Boolean parameter, and this Boolean parameter indicates that whether the fragments view as inflated from the particular layout XML file should be inserted into a parent view group or not. If this parameter is set to true, then it will be inserted into the few group, otherwise it will not inserted. Okay, so here on create few function has three parameters. First one is the layout inflator, and again layout inflator has a so layout inflator component creates a few instance by calling the inflate function like this way, and inflate function has again three parameters. First one is the resource ID, another is the parent view into which that particular fragment is to be inserted, and another was the boolean variable. Okay, and after last this onCreate function returns the root view. Whatever view is written by this inflate function of the inflator class, that view will be returned to the calling function or calling class, right. So we have seen here first parameter of this onCreate view, that is layout inflator. Now we will see the remaining two parameters of this class. So second parameter of the onCreate view is the view group. Okay, and this view group parameter of onCreate view is the parent view group into which the view of fragment is to be inserted, right. And this view group inside the activity that will host the fragment. It means the view group represents the activity into which that particular fragment is to be inserted. Then last parameter is called as the bundle, and this bundle parameter is a bundle. It means it is say a set of some components in which the fragment can save a data just like as that of the activity, right. So this was the theoretical explanation about the Android fragment. In next part of this lecture we will see the actual practical implementation of the Android fragments.